Okay, sorry about that. Another technical difficulty, but we're all good. Welcome everybody who's watching. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for joining us today. So the first thing that I want to touch on for this live is just to put out a bit more press around the wellness webinar that we're going to be doing um, for Montreal Associates at the end of March. So it's March 30th, EST time. I think it's 12 p.m. But check the Montreal event page just to be absolutely certain. But I believe it's 12 p.m. EST. And what we're going to be doing, if you were on the first wellness webinar that we had with Sahil Mirza, he's like our health and wellness coach that does a lot of work with Montreal. And I mean, like you've seen a lot of probably health and wellness coaches like on LinkedIn and this and that. And some of the advice that some of these folks give is a bit more general, we'll say. Others might be a bit more how do you put it, a bit more direct, a bit more actionable, a bit more objective. That's a big part of why we work with Sahil so closely, is because a lot of the advice he gives are really just like simple things, being mindful of things that are I would say relatively easy to be mindful of, just a lot of people end up forgetting. So basically, we're going to be having a new session, a 2.0 session with Sahil Mirza, but also Kofi Johnson, who's a pretty established contractor up here in Canada. He's out on the West Coast. And the reason why we're going to do this, it's not necessarily going to be a presentation with slides, but what it's really going to be is like a discussion around a few specific points. I've mentioned it in the post, a few different areas that we've gathered. Because after especially that last webinar, a lot of contractors came to us that we've worked with and like, hey, like really, really cool that you guys are doing, these wellness webinars to like, be mindful of the mental health of some of us, right? Being a contractor, a lot of people feel like they aren't always treated like everyone else. They're just expected to deliver anything and everything whenever it's asked for. So a lot of contractors came to us like, hey, like, what about this topic? What about that topic? We'd love to see more of a discussion around some of these things to get some ideas going, see how other people are actually dealing with it. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So there's a few key points. I'm going to be facilitating the session, really, all the questions and whatnot. We'll ask Sahil, we'll get his opinion on it from his practical and theoretical perspective from like, the workshops and stuff that he's done, in all different parts of the world with a variety of high stress or people in high stress lines of work. So technology, lawyers, healthcare, like you can imagine, right? What he's seen, but also to relate it back with most of the contractors that we work with who happen to be in the Salesforce ecosystem. Kofi Johnson, right, who's been doing this for a good while, contracting, independent contractor for in the Salesforce ecosystem. Some of the things that he's gone through himself as it relates to what we're talking about and how it might also relate back to yourself if you're also contracting in the space. So come check it out. Again, just click, it's free, by the way. It obviously doesn't cost you anything. Probably be about an hour around lunch. So while you're eating your lunch, listen, collaborate. Like if you want to throw in ideas, like write comments and stuff like that, we are totally open to this. We're hoping for this actually, that we can have a very collaborative session. Hopefully everyone gets something out of it. But that's that. If you got questions about it, just ask me. If you can't find the link, also ask me. It's super easy. You can go on the Montreal Associates LinkedIn page. You go under posts or events, and boom, you're good to go. And then you can also go on my page too. It's on like my featured posts. You just scroll through a little bit, and you'll be able to find them. Sorry, I just thought I had a comment there. But anyways, the other thing that I wanted to mention too is a couple of the big things that we're going to be working on. I was in Buffalo yesterday. I had a meeting with someone from Salesforce. Really, really, really interesting person doing some really cool stuff. Very high level, we'll say. And we talked a lot about, in that case, the HLS space, so like health, life sciences, and some of the things that are going on there. And, part of that conversation, what we had is just some things that we're now going to be looking for even more. So in general, right, across Salesforce, an area that we're really going to start doing some networking in is in DevOps. So Salesforce DX, Copado. If you're someone who's in this space, maybe you're working perm, you're not really sure what your next move is, I highly recommend maybe considering independent contracting, because apparently there's a ton of work for people like yourselves, DevOps engineers, architects, specifically for either DX or Copado, something like that. Are one of the two. Those are the two, I guess, in most demand when it comes to DevOps, specifically for these Salesforce projects. There's a lot of work for people like you. So if you're interested at all, you want to have a chat. Again, you're not committing to anything by just having an open chat and finding out what's going on. Add me on LinkedIn. Even you can follow me for a bit before you decide if you want to reach out or not. But eventually, I'd love to have a conversation with any of you just to see kind of where you're headed in your career. If I can give you any advice. course, if I can introduce you to someone at Salesforce where you can get some contract work, making good money, working on good projects, I mean, that can't hurt either, right? The next thing, again, I put this in a post yesterday, not 100% concrete, but definitely something we can take a shot at. We do need someone who it's I would call it a program architect personally, and this is why. When you have someone who joins a project from the initial stages, architecture of the architecture phase, you're still kind of aligning with the highest stakeholder at the end client, like what direction is this project going to go, and what processes do we need to have in place so it actually happens right. And like once delivery gets a hold of this thing, they can actually take it forward and deliver it properly. So even after delivery is gone, the end client can continue to actually use the product well. So that initial scoping, it's more than scoping, but I just use that word. But that initial person is super, super important and critical for large scale projects, small scale too, but more critical for large scales just because so much more can go wrong. So somebody who understands American health insurance is really important because that's the industry that this project's going to be playing in, and they need someone who's at that program architect level who can like look these clients right in the face and they believe that, wow, this person has kind of walked in my shoes before to some degree. They know my problems, they know what I'm talking about, and the solutions they're proposing, the recommendations they're proposing, this is the perfect way to kickstart this whole thing. That type of program architecture, they would probably have to draft up at least a solution as far as like this is what it could look like. Okay, so solution architecture there too. If they're not overly technical, that's okay. I would be much more heavy on looking at someone who has the industry experience as opposed to the technical in a case like this. But again, being a bit technical is never bad. So that's just one type of profile that if you are interested and you can work in like an American time zone, so anywhere from PST, CST, EST, we'd love to have an open conversation with you about a proactive contract opportunity with Salesforce. Again, I don't have like sign off yet, but it's something we can talk about at least, maybe get some conversations going, and that can never hurt. You're connecting with good people, you're talking to good people. You can't lose. I'm going to be today probably having a conversation around a different opportunity. That would be for Salesforce Industries business analyst. This is again going to be focused in AMER time zone. We'll get that confirmed which one, PST, CST, EST, whatever. And essentially what this is just like a Salesforce Industries or Velocity Insurance business analyst. So it is, when I'm looking at the description of this, I can post it later, but they really are looking for someone who's clearly worked on one of these projects before. If you have, say, the certifications, for example, like the Velocity Insurance certifications, whether it's for quoting or what have you, and you don't have project experience, I'd probably still take a look just because these people are tricky to find. I'd still be happy to have a chat, but it is something that I think they really do need for this project, and you'll see when I post some specifics as to exactly why. Someone's saying video is stuck. I don't know what to do there. Video is stuck. How about now? Ram Mahanti, is the video still stuck? I'm not sure, but no. Yeah, all good. Video's fine. No stress. But yeah, that was just the last thing that I was going to say. That one's like signed off, ready to go. I'm just waiting on some last minute details. Salesforce Industries Business Systems Analyst, Velocity Insurance is definitely something that we're looking for. Even if just on that, in the UK, in EMEA, we are looking for very similar profiles. What we're finding, at least in the States, when it comes to insurance, like any sort of Velocity Insurance, it is heavier on the American healthcare side, right? A lot of the Velocity projects, if you look at like sheer quantity in the States, in Canada, like it is very heavily weighted on communications and media, just the way it is. In Europe, what we're seeing right now, traditionally it's been the same, but we're actually seeing quite a bit come through for energy and insurance. So I mean, just maybe it's cycles, maybe it's different countries being in different places with where they're doing business, but again, industries is a big focus of ours, not the only focus, of course, but if you're in that space, you want to connect, let us know. We'd love to have a chat with you. But just over my 10 minutes, that's all for today. Anything else you need, any clarification you want, message me on LinkedIn. Happy to chat. Take care.